Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder and thank you for joining me. With this being 2019, I thought we'd take a look back at Pink Floyd's 1969 year, a 50th anniversary look back at that year for them. I find this year really fascinating, as I think this was the year that they really began to come into their own and move into the style that we know them as, that exploratory style and the conceptual style. So 1969 for Pink Floyd, they released two albums. The first of these was the album More, which was a French soundtrack released in July of 1969. And the second release of that year was Umaguma, that came out in October of 1969. Umaguma is an interesting album as it's a double album. There's a live, the first disc is live, and it's from a club recorded in May of 1969. I think it's called the Mothers Club in Birmingham. And it's got 4 tracks on it. It's got Astronomy Domine, Careful with the Axe Eugene, which was actually a B-side at that point and was not officially released on an album until Relics in 1971. And then it's got Setting the Controls for the Heart of the Sun and the 4th and final track, A Saucer Full of Secrets. So that's disc 1, but the second disc in here is a studio album, and it's broken into 4 parts, and it's each member of the band doing a solo or solo material where they perform all the instruments themselves. So quite a dichotomy there between the live performance and then the studio solo material. And that's what was released. So you had the band exploring ambient sounds and things for movie soundtrack, you had live material, and you had solo material all in the same year. And specifically, I thought, we'd take a look at the early years box set portion called Dramatization, the 1969 year of that. And that's what this is here. This gives a great overview to that year. This is the front of it here, and I'll flip this around and show you the back of it. They're done in this book style thing. There's the spine, and you can see the Dramatization 1969 year. You can buy them individually now. I have the whole box set where this came part of it along with the other ones. There's 7 total. But this covers 1969 year, and we're taking a look at that for its 50th anniversary. You have the 2 CDs that are up front. You then have this small booklet that's contained inside here with some great photos that are in this. Let's flip through these, all cool live shots and things like that. And then you get into the content of what the material actually is. One last photo. There's memorabilia in here. We'll look at that in a second. And then you've got the 2 discs, video discs, a Blu-ray and a DVD there. So the memorabilia content that is specific to this just slides right out of the top here. And you get some cool little concert bills. This one here. There's this one. This is pretty cool here. This is a fan club newsletter that they would have sent out at the time, typed up, explaining what's going on, actually talking about the content that's on here and what they were going to play live and record. There's a concert ticket in here as well. And then another concert bill. And then this, which is a booklet, in addition to the picture material that you see in the middle of this that I just showed you. This has actual written up, information about the band in here, and the performances and things that are included within this. And so this is quite worthwhile in and of itself, beyond just the written contents. You do get something that's a little specific just to this set. One more page that's in here. Great little bit of information that's in there. So let's talk about the content and why I find this so interesting and important to the Pink Floyd legacy and their development as a band, which is the first disc that's in here. And it is the the fact that they do a concept, well, actually, the first disc that's in here, I take that back. The first disc that's in here actually covers some odds and ends, and let's talk about that real quick. So you have the More album alternative versions on here, and there's 4 tracks of that. There's a song called Hollywood, which is a non-album track. It's a really great track. You have the song Theme, which is on the album, but this is called the beat version. I actually like this one better than the album track itself. There's a track on here called More Blues. Again, it's on the album, but this is an alternative version. I find this one a little more bluesy, actually, as the name states, than what's on the album. And the 4th track, another non-album track from the More soundtrack called Seabirds, is on here. And then the 5th track is interesting because it's Embryo, and it's from the release Picnic. It's a sampler at the time. So this was a non-album track that the album or the label released that was sort of not approved by the band that came out, later appeared on the Works compilation, but was never actually on a Pink Floyd album until this here and until Creation, which is a selections of from the Total the Early Years box set, and is now officially available by Pink Floyd. But that's on here and has long since been considered a classic track by the band, something worth having, and has been very hard to come by, but that's on here. Then you get the BBC radio sessions from 1969. You get Grantchester Meadows, Cymbeline, The Narrow Way, Green is the Color, and Careful with That Axe, Eugene. Again, that track here being the first time that was, well, I wasn't going to say the first time, but, here this is a performance that came out before the actual official 1971 Relics version of that track. So they were performing this, and it was a B-side to an early song off of the Piper at the Gates of Dawn release. And then you get Live at the Paradiso in Amsterdam on the 9th of August, 1969. It's got Interstellar Overdrive, Setting Controls for the Heart of the Sun, Careful with That Axe, Eugene, and Saucer Full of Secrets. So it's over 78 minutes long. It's a really great disc. Disc 2 is the one that I was starting to talk about and I want to get into now. So this one here is called The Man and the Journey. And it's Pink Floyd's first concept performance and or album, if you will. They hadn't intended to record this in the studio. This was sort of a testing out, performing it live, seeing how everything worked, working it all out together. Ultimately, in the end, they never record this in the studio. So it was only ever performed live and recorded here for a broadcast or a radio broadcast in the Netherlands. So it is a really high quality recording, professionally done, which makes it great here to get something from 1969 like this. And the tracks that are on here began later appearing on More and then Umaguma. So there's a number of tracks that then appeared on those albums instead, and there are tracks that are on here that were reworkings of older tracks. But there is still a significant amount of the material here that's unreleased, that's only available or only ever remained as part of this concept performance of The Man and the Journey. So this was performed September 17th of 1969. It was broken into 2 parts or 2 suites, the first one being The Man, and it goes through his experiences of the day. So you had daybreak, work, afternoon, sleeping, nightmare, that sort of stuff. And then the second part of this called The Journey, which is that dream experience. And it goes through tracks, the beginning, Beset by Creatures of the Deep, The Narrow Way, Part 3, Pink Jungle, The Labyrinths of Axamans, Footsteps / Door, Behold the Temple of Light, and The End of the Beginning. Now, to go through what those tracks are, so in the first part of this, The Man, the first track on here, Daybreak, later becomes Grantchester Meadows. So you do get that. Then the next track, Work, remains unreleased. The third track, Afternoon, later becomes Biding My Time, which was a track that didn't finally see its release until Relics in 1971. Track 4, Doing It, and track 5, Sleeping, are again unreleased. And then 6 is Nightmare, which later became Cymbeline on the More soundtrack. 7 was Labyrinth, and that remains unreleased. Then you get part 2 of this, The Journey, and you have The Beginning, which became Green is the Color on the More soundtrack. Track 9, Beset by Creatures of the Deep, was a reworking of Careful with That Axe, Eugene, but remember that was a B-side, so it wasn't a readily known Pink Floyd track at that time, and of course eventually that comes out on Relics. And then track 10, The Narrow Way Part 3. Track 11, The Pink Jungle, was a reworking of the Piper at the Gates of Dawn track, Power Torque, if I'm pronouncing that right. And then track 12, Labyrinths of Aximans, and Footsteps Door, and Behold the Temple of Light remain unreleased. And then you've got The End is the Beginning, which is a reworking of A Saucer Full of Secrets. And it would have been great, to have heard this in a studio context and where it would have gone from there. But ultimately, we do get this live recording, and as I said, it's really high quality, so totally worth it. And so, as I'm stating, this is the first time that they got into that concept, idea, and storytelling style, and really got into that experimentation and everything here. So to me, this 1969 is that year where they really took those first steps forward to what ultimately we see in 1972 with Dark Side of the Moon, and then moving further with Wish You Were Here, and its suite of Shine On You Crazy Diamond bookending the album, and then of course ultimately later with The Wall and the Final Cut. Now, this also comes with Blu-ray and DVD that's in here, and it's got a lot of really great video content that has been restored and is totally worth having. You get some live performances in here of Setting the Trolls for the Heart of the Sun and Saucer Full of Secrets. You get tracks from rehearsals for that concept album, The Man and the Journey. They perform Afternoon, The Beginning, Cymbeline, Beset by Creatures of the Deep, and The End is the Beginning. The End is the Beginning, that's that reworking of A Saucer Full of Secrets. You then get some festival performances from October of '69, Careful with That Axe, Eugene, and Saucer Full of Secrets from there. You get another festival performance, Music Power and European Music Revolution Festival from October 1969, Green is the Color, Careful with That Axe, Eugene, and Setting the Trolls for the Heart of the Sun. And then you get the final track, Interstellar Overdrive, which actually has Frank Zappa on it. It's really great. It's an 11-minute track, totally worth it. The DVD Blu-rays are 94 minutes in length, so again, you get a lot of really great content on there. So in wrapping up to this, part of the reason I wanted to also bring this up is that while there isn't a studio recording by Pink Floyd, this German prog rock group, RPWL, did their version of The Man and the Journey. Now, it's a live version too, but it's a modern day recording of it, very faithful to Pink Floyd's. There's also a DVD of their full live performance. So you could think of it as like a tribute group, like a Brit Floyd, or a Blue Floyd, one of those tribute groups out there doing their version of it and getting to hear a really high technical quality version of it. And so again, RPWL doing that really great. And then just in conclusion, if you want to get a lot more information from this time period, Nick Mason did, he's written his own autobiography here called Inside Out. He covers everything in great detail. It's also really great to get the perspective of a band member who's outside of most of the writing of this, or meaning a Roger Waters or a David Gilmour, and to see those intricacies from the outside perspective, but a guy that was there through the whole thing. And so that book there really goes into great detail and covers all of this. Okay, so that wraps this up. Again, this was the review of Dramatization. This box set here, a 2 CD Blu-ray DVD, so 4-disc box set that you can buy individually. You can pick that up on Amazon for about 35 to 45 bucks. It was originally part of the early years box set that is a a 7 box set, because it came with 7 of these things and had somewhere I think upwards of like 27 or 29 disc total in it, and that box set was about 500 bucks at the time. It's now actually out of print, so the only way to get these things is now to buy them individually like this. Okay, so in conclusion, wrapping this up, 50th anniversary of Pink Floyd's 1969 year. I hope you learned something or picked something up from this, or piqued your interest to go out and check some of this stuff out. If you found this interesting, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, and I hope everyone has a really great, I'll be talking to you all real soon. Take care.